everyone, welcome back. You know how much we love a good story around here, and today we're diving headfirst into the fascinating world of African folklore.
And we've got a fantastic guide for our journey today, The Adventures of Tumelo.
Right. This book, though, I gotta say, when I first picked it up, I thought, okay, children's book, cute animals, got it. But then I actually started reading.
It's got those surface level elements for sure, but then you get into it and it's so much more than just a simple children's story, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. First of all, we're dropped right into the heart of the African savanna, and we meet Tumelo, this curious little hippo who's always up for an adventure. And of course, no good story is complete without a partner in crime. So we've got the baby rhino, always ready to stir up a little mischief. I mean, come on, hippos and rhinos. What's not to love?
It's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, those character types, the curious adventurer, the mischievous sidekick, you see those archetypes in folklore all over the world.
Exactly. And that's what I love about it. It feels instantly relatable no matter where you're from, right? Like, these characters could be from any culture, but the stories ground them in this really specific, vibrant world.
And speaking of that cultural grounding, one of the things that sets this book apart is the author's commitment to authenticity. I mean, Ellis Mbeku, he's known for weaving traditional African folklore into his tale.
Yeah, I was going to say, even the preface mentions how skilled he is at capturing those authentic voices and legends. It's not just a story, it's like a window into another culture.
And not just another culture, but a whole different way of looking at the world, wouldn't you say? Because Mbeku, he doesn't just tell stories. He uses them to explore real-life dilemmas, moral questions, the kind of stuff that everyone grapples with.
Oh, absolutely. And he does it in a way that feels so natural, so organic to the story. It's not preachy at all.
Right. Each chapter is like a mini lesson disguised as an adventure.
Speaking of adventure, that first chapter, Tumelo and the Lion's Roar, had me hooked from the get-go. The idea of a young hippo coming face-to-face with a lion, talk about a crash course in bravery.
Classic setup, right. But what I found fascinating is how Mbeku uses these animal characters to represent something deeper. Like the lion, it's this symbol of power, of fear, but in the story, it becomes something more nuanced.
Oh, totally. It's not just about being afraid of the lion, it's about understanding it, maybe even learning from it. And you know me, I'm a sucker for a good symbol. What's the deal with lions and African folklore anyway?
Well, in many African traditions, lions are associated with royalty, strength, and even guardianship.
Oh, wow.
They're often seen as protectors, which adds a whole other layer to how that lion is portrayed in the story. It's like Mbeku's drawing on those deeper cultural understandings.
That's incredible. It's like you think it's just a simple story about a lion, and then boom, you've got all this symbolism and meaning packed in. So we've got these relatable characters, timeless dilemmas, and now we're talking about cultural significance. What else is going on in these stories? Tell me more.
You know, one of the things that really struck me was how Mbeku takes these like big real-world issues and weaves them into the stories so seamlessly.
Oh, for sure. It's not just like, here's a lesson about sharing. It's woven into the narrative in a way that feels, I don't know, almost effortless.
Exactly. And like you were saying earlier about that chapter, The Mystery of the Missing Water, it tackles a really timely issue, especially in the context of the savannah, right?
Totally. I mean, water scarcity is a huge problem in many parts of Africa, so to see it addressed in a children's book, even in this kind of like fantastical way.
It brings a sense of realism to it, don't you think?
Yeah. And it's not just about the setting either, right? It's about the message that water is precious, that it's something to be shared and protected.
Exactly. And the way Mbeku presents it, it's not preachy at all. It's like he's inviting the reader to think about it, to ask questions.
And maybe even to make a change. Right, even in small ways, we can all do our part. Oh, and speaking of things we all experience, that chapter, Losing Your Way, with Tumelo getting lost in the maze.
Ah, the maze. Classic, right. It's such a universal symbol of confusion, of feeling lost and alone.
And who does he run into but the wise old tortoise? I love how those classic archetypal figures just pop up in these stories.
It's like Mbeku took all the best parts of storytelling from all these different traditions and wove them together.
And can we talk about the fact that there's an actual maze puzzle in the book?
Right. So good. It's like he's inviting the reader to get lost in the story, literally.
And to find their own way out, just like Tumelo. And speaking of finding your way, those little trivia questions throughout the book.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah.
It's like having a built-in conversation starter, right?
Yeah, totally. It's like Mbeku is saying, hey, don't just read the story, think about it, do some research.
And it's a great way to encourage kids to learn more about African culture, too. Oh, and you know what else I loved? That chapter where Tumelo learns about honesty.
Oh, yeah. That one really hit home for me, too. Because let's be real, we've all told those little white lies, even as adults.
All the time. But it's like Tumelo's journey reminds us that honesty, even when it's tough, is always the best policy.
It's a good reminder for all of us, for sure. And the way Mbeku handles it, it's so age-appropriate, but it doesn't shy away from the hard stuff. Like, Tumelo feels guilty, he's scared of getting in trouble, all those real, relatable emotions.
And that's what makes these stories so powerful, right? They stick with you, they make you think.
Totally. It's not just entertainment, it's food for thought.
Yeah.
And speaking of food for thought, can we talk about how transportive this book is? Like, I felt like I was right there on the savannah with Tumelo.
Right. Mbeku's descriptions are so vivid, so immersive.
I know. It's like you can practically smell the dry grass and feel the heat of the sun. But it's more than just the setting, right? It's the whole atmosphere, the way he captures the essence of a culture that might feel very different from our own.
Exactly. And that's one of the things I appreciate most about this book. It's like a window into another way of seeing the world. The values, the relationships, the way challenges are approached. It's all filtered through this really unique cultural lens.
It really makes you think about your own upbringing too, doesn't it? Like, what stories were you told as a kid? What lessons did you learn?
Absolutely. It's a good reminder that even though cultures might seem different on the surface, we all share these universal human experiences.
That's a great point. We might dress differently or speak different languages, but at the end of the day, we all feel joy, sadness, fear, love, all those fundamental human emotions.
Exactly. And that's the power of stories like the ones in the Adventures of Tumelo. They remind us of our shared humanity.
They really do. And it's making me think this book isn't just for kids, is it?
Oh, not at all. I think adults would get just as much, if not more, out of these stories. We bring our own life experiences to the table, which can add a whole other layer of meaning.
Right. Like a kid reading about Tumelo, learning about honesty, that's a valuable lesson. But an adult reading it, we've got all those real-life experiences to draw on. It hits differently.
Exactly. And for those of us who have kids in our lives, what a fantastic way to start conversations about different cultures, about important values.
Seriously, it's like a jumping-off point for so many meaningful discussions. So, to wrap things up, would you say The Adventures of Tumelo is worth adding to your bookshelf?
Absolutely. Whether you're a parent, a teacher, or just someone who loves a good story, this book is a must-read.
Couldn't agree more. So there you have it, folks. Another deep dive into a fascinating topic. Until next time, happy reading.